say what Hamas did, all the waves, the suicide bombing attack, October.
I don't know. When did like genociding your neighbors became a basic human right? Like, by the way, Israelis don't have this human right. Only Palestinians have it. Like, they genocided like the Christians, the Jews, everything around them. Like, why do they have that? Why is it like their basic human right to do it? I don't understand. I want to make some comments on the conversation Mosab, Hassan, Yousef had with this woman, Abby. They were arguing, debate. I don't know if debate is worth anything. I think it should be thrown to the trash because every side just comes with their talking points. And usually the Palestinian side, to be honest, they just say what they want to say. They don't care about what they're being asked. They don't care about what the other person that they're debating with is saying. They're just like, okay, those are the points I want to make clear, and then ignore anything else. But I have to say that, like, when I saw a section of it in Twitter, my first impression was that Abby, as someone who judges Mosab, Hassan, Yousef to be a traitor to his people, well, it's kind of ironic that it comes from someone who is clearly betraying womankind, because the way she denies reality of the Middle East is, how do I describe it? Awful. She is gaslighting the whole female experience in the Middle East in the way she talks. And this is really what alerted me. I kind of want to see those sections again to see exactly what triggered me. But there is a section here in the beginning where there is this teaser where Piers Morgan probably feels like he's the smartest person in the world.
You're an official spokesman for the Israeli government, and you have no idea how many civilians you've killed. No, you're not foggy when it comes to killing terrorists. You're only foggy, it seems to me.
Yeah, that's like amazing. Sir, okay, I think the official spokesperson, I don't know how he answered him. I'm probably gonna skip this part. How are they gonna count civilians? Unlike Hamas members, right, that they maybe have a yellow page of Hamas members and they can figure out how many Hamas members got eliminated just by seeing how many names of the yellow pages they can take off. You know, this is data and information that was gathered for years now, right, about who is working with them, who is not. So you can kind of see whose phone line or whatever stops functioning in theory, right? I don't know. How do they know? Like, there are ways to know. It's a bit harder when it comes to civilians, okay? If they really are indeed civilians and children, why would Israel even have that information, right, on them? They wouldn't. It's weird. So the other way to do that is actually trying to collect dead bodies out of rubble and then counting them, which is not very a good idea when everything is booby trap. So all those bodies, like even in the massacre that happened here in Israel, they made sure that those bodies that they left around everywhere are gonna get extra people with them once they're collected, because they had those bodies booty trapped, so that the people who are trying to collect them would get hurt as well. Amazing society, incredible, I know. So they do the same, like they do the same everywhere. They do the same in every spot. That I don't know how many civilians now. I mean, they are civilians, some of them, but I think those who are civilians, they should just stay in the refugee camps area and not go back to their homes. But those who do go back to, like, I wonder how many of them just explode because of all of the booty traps they live around. But who cares, right? Who cares about doing the minimum required due diligence of understanding what's going on? When I'm talking about Piers Morgan, right? The people he brings, like they support genocide. They love genocide. It's their motto, really. Like, they would participate. Clearly, very sadistic, awful human beings of all sorts of creeds and kinds. Right. Let's see this awful woman speaking.
Onslaught, this military operation, that will result in mass slaughter to continue their ethnic cleansing of Gaza is frankly absurd.
Literally, I don't want to answer anything that she said about Israel because she's lying in every step of the way. You can see Mosab Hassan Yousef is literally like losing his shit. Like when he starts smiling, you know that he's like angry. It's not a good sign. When he's switching his angry face to his actual like smiling face, it's like kind of smile. It's like
Palestinians buried alive, using drones to lure out Palestinians with sounds of crying.
I don't want to listen to her.
Rebuild without conditions. So at this point,
To collect statistics and count the numbers. It's a very dangerous zone.
Yeah.
No other army can do the job, and I'm not willing to risk thousands of lives of.
It's true, by the way, Israel is in this war broke records and like so many technical army records with the effectiveness of their operation in minimizing also civilians killed. Like I think the ratios, like they are the lowest ever. But it's Israel and Jews are like the problem is that like the United States, the elites, like they all want us to die, right? We are a problem in their minds because the Jews are hard to control. They're rebels. In the elite mind, right? You are either a slave or you are part of them. And Jews are neither. Some Jews are part of them, but it's rare. Most Jews are not. So and then Jews are hard to enslave. It's like it bothers them. It bothers them so much that the Jews are so hard to enslave.
Tribe of savages who hijacked the entire society. 100,000 people could have died. Israel is doing everything they could. Don't reduce it to the point. Do you have statistics? Who cares?
Well, actually,
Egypt,
I think they're missing my point.
Authority,
Yeah, Mosab.
Jordan,
All right.
the Arab world don't want Hamas at whatever.
Speaking of statistic, like you know how many, like them, okay, obviously the massacres, like Assad, their lovely friend, like dropped chemical weapons on his own people. Dude, we're living in a rough neighborhood. These people are, I mean, she's just evil and he's an idiot.
Cost, whatever it costs, we want to remove Hamas from power.
Okay, I understand that. That's a different question. My point is why...
Do you?
Well, why does it...
No, obviously it doesn't understand. Why are you asking him? Don't you see he's like, stupid?
Is this for you? Why is it that, if as you say, Israel has no way of working out who's being killed here, and I know all about war...
That's my favorite part. And I know all about war because my brother was in the army.
Served in wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. My brother-in-law served in wars.
Not even his brother-in-law.
My grandfather served in wars.
His grandfather served in wars. Whoa.
Uncle served in wars.
His uncle served in wars. Okay, what about you? Did you serve in a war, you idiot?
I don't need a lecture about what warfare is, but I do find it surprising that Israel's official spokesman, months and...
Why don't you go? Go to your uncle and your brother-in-law and your grandpa and ask them, hey, do you know how many people you killed? Like when you detonated something? Do you know how much, how long did it take you to find out? Was it possible to know during wartime what's the exact count, or was it not? Like, did you go and ask them those questions? Like, because in that part, if you're so sophisticated and knowledgeable, maybe like you can enrich us. Maybe you know stuff that we don't because you know everything about how the army works because your brother-in-law served in Afghanistan and whatever. Then share, right? Say, hey, listen, from my dear family, I know that what happens is that once you get a strike, you can, from the, the amounts of the Allahu Akbar that you hear, you can average it out with the mathematical statistics, right? So one fighter, then you can tell, okay, then, you hear the pitch, You're like, okay, so they probably used like several, like 2 babies as human shields on them, or, something. Just in like, I want to know, like the tactics. I want to know. Like because this is like, that's the thing. If you have real knowledge of how it should be done, you say how it is supposed to be done. You ask, hey, did you guys do that and that? If not, why not? This is somebody who knows something. This dude is just talking.
Months into this war, is able to tell me immediately how many Hamas terrorists have been killed by Israeli forces, but admits he hasn't got a clue how many civilians have been killed.
Oh.
And I'm sorry, I think most viewers
Because they can count.
will
They can
find that
count the
stunning.
terrorist
You say
The
Israel has no
terrorist
way of
corpses
checking,
all over
but they
the
seem to have a
place.
way of checking how many Hamas they're killing. Mosab.
Now, why would they know like the terrorist corpses are like is easier to count than the other corpses? I don't know. I think they can like assess maybe because of other things as well, not necessarily just corpses, unless like it's like on a range and maybe they can see it.
Listen, it's Israel's responsibility to know the death of their own citizens. This is their responsibility. I think your question was absurd. This is why you put him on the spot. He was not prepared for
I didn't
it. But
put
this
him
is
on the
not
spot.
going to change the reality on the ground. The reality on the ground, Hamas must go. The only
Safe zones after the massive destruction caused by the Israeli war machine. The ministry affirms the kingdom's categorical rejection of the occupation forces' continued blatant violations of international resolutions, calling for the cease.
When I look at Piers Morgan, I think, your country is getting like, you don't even have like 7% of Muslim, like less, not even 10% of Muslims in your country, the UK. And somehow they run everything, like they run the policies, they take over councils. They shout around, like they go around shouting that they want to impose Sharia law. And this is what you're busy with, right? This is what is your enemy. Does this person have any daughters? I just wonder, because if he does, like, I don't know why it bothers me so much. Like, I would think about my dad. My dad would have went crazy if he thought that I'm at risk.
These massacres and their violation of international law and international humanitarian law without deterrence, which exacerbates the humanitarian crisis and limits international peace efforts. The ministry renewed the kingdom's demand for the international community to intervene immediately to stop the genocide carried out by occupation forces against defenseless civilians in the occupied Palestinian.
Okay, nothing he says makes sense.
Okay, let me bring in Abby. Abby, will you be listening to this? I mean,
oh my God. Like in the West, I know from the winner in the debate is the one that doesn't raise their voice. In the Middle Eastern area, if you don't raise your voice, like you are just a propaganda machine, like you're not a human, you don't really believe in what you're saying. So you have like a cultural clash here that is happening with the way Mosab reacts and the way she reacts. But in reality, like there is another layer. He's really emotional about it. Like he has a reason to fight this fight. Well, she's just a warmongering, money lover, woman betrayer.
Fundamentally, I understand why Israel and Israelis want to eliminate Hamas completely, because this is a terror group who are wedded to the eradication of Israel and everybody in it. In fact, they have reiterated publicly through their official spokesman
like, if he ever asked himself why the UK didn't fight the Nazis when it was a small thing, and they waited for like millions to die from both sides, until you get to that point, it's not worth fighting. If they're not like this is the logic, right? It's like you don't fight until if you're not certain that millions are gonna die, then why bother fighting? Why? It's like it's a big numbers game, right? Like we don't fight when it's like the number of casualties in the 100,000s or the 10,000s. No, we're gonna join when it's gonna be the millions in Europe.
desire to commit as many October the 7th as they can. So I completely understand why Israel wants to get rid.
Yeah, I see, like you have a 10 million people to spare, I get it. Like what's the UK population, like 80 million? Okay, so you can leave after 10 million. Like for us, 10 million, that's it for us. We cannot afford to wait for the millions like you do.
Of these terrorists. The question is, how do they do that without killing many, many more civilians? And as we saw,
all Muslims are terrorists. And so, I mean, this is credited to the point that he is actually credited to jailing what is called the Mandela, the Palestinian Mandela. Marwan Barghouti.
I love this part so much, where she's speaking about her best friend, the Mandela, the Palestinian Mandela. By the way, I'm not sure Mandela was so peaceful, to be honest. Like, I get the mixed impression from him, but whatever. Not my jurisdiction area in any way, shape, or form. So it's better for me to not voice an opinion. Marwan Barghouti, it's amazing. Like, can you imagine like being in prison on and off and seeing all those big names, like the way, like hearing and seeing how they torture other prisoners for fun, and then this beautiful woman comes and says, "Oh, he's such a hero."
20 years ago, who was marching side by side with Israeli peace activists denouncing Hamas killing civilians.
Yeah, more than anything, that says that like how stupid those Israeli peace activists are. Like, there is no limit to human stupidity. There were also Jews that collaborated with the Nazis.
So again, I mean, when we're looking at someone who's worked for Israeli intelligence, who spouts the same rhetoric as Israelis, who say Hamas, but what they really mean is all Palestinians, I mean, it's really hard to debate someone on the fundamental reality and the principles of, the facts of this conflict. Now, to your point, Piers, about what should they do about Hamas, I reject the premise of Israel's genocide. I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, Hamas is a terrorist organization and they need to be eradicated.
Right. So for the imaginary genocide, she supports Hamas. Hamas that tortures women. Hamas that, I mean, these people support Kim Jong-un too, right? The person proudly announced that he's gonna starve 90% of his own population.
Of course, that's not true, and I think that we can both agree.
What do you mean that's not
it's
true?
An impossible task. It's not true that something needs to be done about Hamas. I don't agree with that framework and the parameters of that debate.
Why?
Because Israel's been...
Yeah, even Piers Morgan, he has his limits, right? So the dude is an complete moron, an idiot, right? Cannot learn or comprehend anything, and his questions are kind of stupid, and his way of thinking is also stupid. By the way, if you want to host me and stuff, go for it. Sorry for calling you stupid. I mean, you are, though. This is why I'll never get popular, It's I'll be oh, I cannot, this person is an idiot. Why do I need to talk to them? Instead of being shutting up and having future opportunities.
Because Israel's been committing ethnic cleansing and genocidal policies against the Palestinians for 70
But Hamas literally
years.
has
and
a charter.
Yeah,
but Abby, hang on. Hamas literally has a stated charter of the elimination of Israel, said publicly on camera. He was brazen about it.
Look, I think that when you're comparing one guy and his statement to literally dozens of genocidal statements, okay, but look at the official spokespeople of Israel, Piers, and look at...
He's smiling now, he's going crazy.
You cannot compare the two. It's a complete false equivalency. One guy is saying one thing, the other dozens of Israeli ministers and cabinet officials and public media personas on TV are saying one thing.
I don't understand her. Why wouldn't she say why wouldn't she be hey, Jews should be dead?
It's not up to me, Piers.
It's a popular idea in that point anyway. Why pretend Israelis have genocidal tendencies?
Figure in Palestinian society, he would resound.
If we had genocidal tendencies, people would have respected us. We said, oh, they're crazy, just like the rest of the Middle Easterns. And then they would have let us live, They would have given us weapons like they give Lebanon now. Because in Lebanon, like they massacred the Christians in Saba and Shatila, they massacred the Palestinians. I mean,
when did Hamas come into power?
it was a retaliation. That was a retaliation, right? Because the Palestinians were about to genocide all the Christians in Lebanon.
Children. This is ethnic cleansing. This is a military occupation as long as...
Yeah, ethnic cleansing. Check the Christians in the Middle East if you want to see ethnic cleansing.
All right, Mosab, there was an allegation that...
Like, she doesn't really care. She doesn't really care. She, like, her emotional, like, the way she is, like, oh, this is ethnic. No, that's acting. You can see it's acting. There's nothing behind it.
Terrorists. What's your response to what Happy Martin said?
Well,
Look at her stupid face. Wow.
Desperate attempt
What is
to
this?
discredit me. I'm a man of the field. I fought against Hamas.
She closed her mouth, thanks.
Legitimate intelligence organization against savage group that were targeting civilians in suicide bombing attacks, waves of suicide bombing attacks that they killed people indiscriminately. Low-grade journalist. How can you be a journalist?
Look at her smile. She's like, bro, you know how much money I'm making from going around with Baraguti and everybody else? Do you know how much money there is there? Like all the Palestinian liberation money, you guys, you know how much I parted with those people? Look at me.
Called this a genocide, ethnic cleansing, and she's just
Look at her smile.
ethnic cleansing, genocide, colonialism, etc. None of it is real, including Palestine. It's only in your head. None of it is existential. Palestine was never born. How can you free it? It was never there. It's just a colonial entity and some...
Yeah, like the thing is like, wow, how stupid, like how self-centered is the West when it's clearly there is a double game, because the messaging and the way they talk in Arabic is so different than the way they present everything to the West. Like in Arabic, they said like Palestine is Arab land. They don't say anything. Like they don't say Palestine is Palestinian. They just say, hey, look at this map, right? Everything is Arab. And then in the middle, there is a Jewish state. That doesn't make sense. It should all be Arab. That's the logic they use. Like this is how they explain it. Like they look at it and they say, see, everything is colonized. We have cleared all those areas. Like it's all Arab. How come there is in the middle of this Arab dominance, there is a Jewish state, like, and they say it like this belongs to us. This should be Arab, and that's the way they talk. That's the way they talk. Like, it's so clear. Just like Piers Morgan, right? Like you little. Before you get colonized, before you join the beautiful Arab world, right? Like before you join to this map, right? Before like you have we get to have like the Cyprus extension being Muslim too. Like check, just do the minimum due diligence, how things sound like when in Arabic, you know, how does it sound like?
People choose to make it into a national identity, and this parrot...
Like it's one thing in the US, right? The US elites that wanna bring Israel down because they don't like Jews, right? They live in an island far, far away. They have the Second Amendment, right? It's just those poor people who would have to suck it because they cannot like they cannot sit down and like shoot ducks like rich people can, right? And I mean, it's not like it works. Like this method doesn't work. Like look at South Africa now, and they cannot even leave their house. It's not fun. I don't like. They're not thinking either. But like the UK and Europe, you guys like Israel falls. You don't even need us to fall. Like you're in a direct threat, under direct threat, and you're pretending that like it's not your war. Like how pathetic.
Has been just repeating Hamas propaganda. Marwan Barghouti that she's talking about, and she never met him. I knew Marwan before he got to power.
I don't know. Look at her. She clearly looks like she shaked hands with him at least.
He's a criminal. He killed 5 people.
You're like, I met him. We had fun. We were partying in a club somewhere.
Has blood on his hands. He cheated on his wife. He has.
Yeah, this part she's like, I know this.
He never revealed it to the public.
Oh my god, I can't believe you just told that, like, he cheated on his wife. I mean, I've seen him do it.
Of course, I can't criticize him, and I can't criticize all the criminals that I know personally. She's been there only for a visit, and maybe she had some falafel sandwich, and she really was blown away of the Palestinian experience. There is no such a thing as Palestine. It's about trying to retire, find a different job. You're not a journalist. You don't qualify even to be a mother.
He is right. She doesn't. I mean, she can be a mother, but I hope she doesn't treat her children the way she looks at women in the Middle East. I mean, I guess we are in an inferior race for her anyway. Everybody that lives here, right? Like the Palestinian cause is just fun right now. It's what the elites do. It's like their game. It's like I don't know, let's save the monkeys kind of situation for them, or like let's save the endangered kind of bird or the seals, it's like this kind of mind. I like a game.
Mosab, it's usually a public figure. If they were caught lying about half the things they said, they would be completely discredited and never allowed airtime.
So why does she think she knows if he lies or not? That's what I want to know. Like, how close is she to these people to come with this claim? Because everything that he said, like, it makes sense, right? It's like it fits the character, it fits the culture, everything fits. Like, I wouldn't say it because I don't know them, right? But I in my mind I'd be like, I'd assume it, like, like a profile, right? You do not become a great Palestinian leader without dirtying your hands, For example, like, I know Saib Barikat, if I'm not wrong, the one that perished due to COVID attack, like he got COVID and passed away. So I think it was Saib Barikat, and actually his nephew was in the same room as my ex in university, in Columbia University, I think. Oh no, NYU University. I don't know, some university in New York. They shared a room. And when he died, he was like, "Hey, I'm sorry that you died." Like, he was next to that about your uncle, and his nephew was like, "We're actually kind of all happy that this dog died. He was an awful human being." And that comes from him. Like, there's like, are you kidding? Like, the whole family is like, thank good riddance.
You are spewing such ahistorical anti-Arab bigotry that not even the fringe of Israeli society would agree.
Not even the fringe of Israeli society. So, all right. So she's contradicting herself because she said before, like, how genocidal we are in our nature. So you're saying that we are genocidal without doing the dehumanization phase? Just so you know, it's kind of a requirement in genocide. Like, it's kind of hard to convince people to commit genocide without the dehumanization phase. Maybe it should be studied, right? Like, how do Israelis commit genocide without going through all the requirements for genocide? That would be an amazing. This is like, I think we can find the answers to the universe in this. Yeah, because obviously it's like, yeah, the theory of everything.
Arab. I am Arab. I am Arab. This is my ethnicity.
Sir.
Islam is just
Anti-Muslim
a religion.
bigotry.
I am not a Muslim.
Okay, she went from Arab bigotry to anti-Muslim bigotry.
Mosab.
We are Arab.
Mosab. Okay. Then anti-Muslim bigotry, which is frankly appalling considering that there's a billion people on the planet who would be characterized as you as, extremists who need to be used force against, according to you. But Mosab, not even...
Why is he so, like, what's this kind of mentality, really? Like, all of Europe was extreme and, like, participated in genocide. Like, it's not racist. Like, Europeans did it, and then the Japanese did it, the Koreans did it.
Israelis at least admit, yes, those things exist, but here's why they're necessary and justified. They don't even agree with you. You're so fringe that I don't even know where you're coming from. I mean, so again, if we can't even...
I don't get it. Like, should we get genocide or not?
Reality in front of our eyes, I don't know how we can really even discuss.
She's very confusing. I with everything she said right now, I almost start to think that maybe we are humans. Maybe we should be able to live. Very confusing.
Well, I think the political... Listen, everyone's entitled to an opinion.
Piers, best case scenario, if there is an occupation, it's between Israel and Jordan, or it's between Israel and Egypt, because it was not an occupation.
Mosab, don't confuse them with facts. They don't like facts. Like, she contradicted herself in, like, her theory in the beginning about how genocidal Israelis are is completely debunked by her own words. But she never debunked the fact that the Palestinians are completely genocidal in their approach and intent, which is a requirement for genocide.
Called Palestine. There was never Palestine in history. This is not an absurd statement. It's reality. Discredit me. Who gave you the authority? How dare
you? Are a spy. You're a spy.
And you are a traitor to the West and everything that made the West great by supporting this barbaric regime that want to genocide a population.
It is not funny. It's not funny.
I mean, for her, it's funny. She likes blood, for sure.
Stop, because you are creating chaos. Listen, Abby, you are bringing chaos to the United States, and you will be held accountable.
I mean,
you are just a criminal like them.
She is.
Okay, Mosab, you can't be taken seriously.
Are you joking, you little bitch?
You are literally, you have worked for Israeli intelligence to out your own people. But listen, okay, but Mosab, you can't discredit my reality as well. You can't discredit my reality as well. I was in the West Bank. I had assault rifles pointed at my head.
She had assault. I wonder what she was doing. Is it because she was partying with terrorists that she got assault rifle? Like, what was the situation that had, like, and also, like, this is not how it's done. Usually they start with aiming to your feet, and if you don't stop, they go to the head, especially with a journalist. But, you know, I think most of the things that happen are, like, obviously happening in some sort of a parallel fantasy world. So maybe somebody was just checking their gun or something, and she passed it by and she's like, oh, like, because I sent photos like that too. Or she had somebody pointing a gun to her head, and then I kind of wonder, how did you get to that situation? Because that, like, if you gave us the details and everything like that, I'd be more impressed, right? Like, I would be able to say, like, oh yeah, the Israelis were not okay when they did that. But since there is no info there is no meat, it sounds like maybe she's not going to get to it because she actually committed something, some kind of a crime. Or she's not.
That's an occupation.
You are in my domain right
now. That's a military occupation.
Okay, you are in my domain. When you come to my domain, you have to pay respect. You have to respect all the effort that I put to save human lives, and you cannot reduce that into propaganda. Because
why on earth would I respect you for putting the leader of Fatah? Mosab, you put the most unifying, popular Palestinian figure. You are credited to putting him in prison. This is someone who would win an election against Hamas. He is a peace activist. He was fighting
peace, like Islamic peace, right? Where the whole world is Muslim and there is peace because everybody submits to Allah. And you know, and then you have like the different dominations of Islam. So until everybody is agreeing on a domination, basically the peace in Islam is extinction.
For a two-state solution. This isn't about Hamas, and you know it. This is about you shutting down, tamping down on all factions of Palestinian society. And let's be clear, what is Palestine supposed to do? What are Palestinians supposed to do when it's...
What is Palestine supposed to do? Like, what is, like, why don't you worry about Kurdistan or other places that are trying to get some sort of independence from oppressing forces? Like, why everybody is so worried about Palestine? Is it because Palestine helps them with their fantasies.
In Gaza marched peacefully to a fortified perimeter fence, but Israeli snipers have authorized themselves to kill.
Oh, that shit is awful. That's what you're supposed to be, somebody coming to go through your fence. Like, you know, when a mob comes, you know, like, have you seen the stampede that happened in South Korea? Because there it was too crowded and, like, many died. Yeah, it's dangerous, man. It's dangerous, especially when they're not peaceful at all. I've seen them. I know what she's talking about. I've actually, like, remember it. It's scary. In real life, it's scary.
Massacred over 200 peaceful demonstrators, medics, press, journalists, clearly marked press, disabled people in wheelchairs, and children. These are all violations of international law and the Geneva Convention. Israeli snipers perched up behind sand dunes picked people off one by one in a methodical slaughter.
Why do you go and invade a territory in a way that is clear? Like, you know, there is an international convention. Like, if you really need a refugee status or something like that, you need to take your shirt and, like, put it over and have your hands up. Were they doing that? Were they doing that?
Over the course of several months. That's when Palestinians tried to peace.
Like when the Lebanese and the Syrians were, there were refugees from their fighting, they would run to the border too, but they were clearly there to ask for help, you know, because before they tried to break the fence down and come by force, they'd be like, hey, we're injured, can you help us?
Protest. So I think the question should be, what should Palestinians do? Because they're not even allowed to advocate for their legal rights. They're not even allowed to.
How about go to school, study, develop a culture, maybe even invent your own fucking currency, stop using shekels because you hate the Jews, but shekels you love. Everywhere is shekel. No, there is no Palestinian currency. Like, why do something? Like, why would you do something like that, right? Why do something boring like that? Like, if you want to, like, show seriousness. You want to uncouple from us, then become independent. Do something, like, run your own everything.
Raise up a Palestinian flag. I visited a place called Sebastia in the occupied West Bank, and Palestinians were shot and in the hospital for simply erecting a Palestinian flag on a hilltop several days prior. This is the brutal reality of military occupation in the West Bank, Mosab. I mean, I want the violence to end. I empathize with the victims of both sides of this, and that's why I want to get to the root of the conflict. Yes, I don't go out there and say Jews can't be trusted, as you say about Muslims.
Yeah, you started with
I
it.
believe and cherish the sanctity of human life, and that's why I want to get to the root of why violence occurs, Mosab.
Let me ask Mosab a question. Do you agree with the principle that Palestinians should be entitled to exactly the same human rights as Israelis?
Listen, the suffering.
I mean, we don't have any human rights. We are, like, literally, Israelis are a free-for-all target. Like, you can genocide us and the world cheers. So I don't know why, like, what Piers Morgan wants. Like, it's literally, it would be a downgrade.
Of the Arabians. Again, stop calling them Palestinians. They are not Palestinians. We are Arabs. We are the Arabs of Judea and Samaria and Israel, and the Jewish people.
Well, Palestinians call themselves Palestinians.
Of their state.
See, like, the thing is, like, the Jews actually went through genocide. They went through it. Like, how much genocide is, like, until we're all gone, we'll be privileged, right? Because if you survived, you're privileged. Because, like, I survived and I didn't die, I am privileged because I'm alive, obviously. So no matter, like, you know, like, I saw rockets falling, and, like, there were suicide bombing close to me. Like, that doesn't matter, right? Like, I'm alive, and I work and I try to be productive and I go to school and I study.
You gave them that name. You forced the international community and the rest of the world.
All right, well, let me rephrase the question. Should the
the
people who live in Gaza and on the West Bank, should they be entitled to the same human rights?
We don't have human rights. Come on, we're Jews. We don't have them. Like, all the Jews got expelled from all the Arab Muslim world. Like, they cannot live in the Western world now because they get persecuted. They cannot go to universities in the United States. Like, what human rights are you talking about? We don't have human rights.
Right.
Like, why would you want to curse the Palestinians with the same human rights we have? Right? Like, they have way more rights because they can literally like genocide and then get away with it. Like, they can have hostages in their basement that are children and like torture them, and then everybody in the world like, yay, good job, people. Like, can you imagine if we held like American hostages just for fun? Like, how much rights would we have? Like,
if they have equal responsibility as the decent citizens of the state of Israel, that includes Arabs, Jews, Christians, and all other citizens of the state of Israel, then yes, they have equal rights. But if they are not taking their responsibility, if they are using violence, sending suicide bombers, and killing babies, kidnapping a 1-year-old, how do you answer to the mother and to the mothers of the hostages and all those who got killed on October 7th? It's very easy to just try to delegitimize Israel. This is what Abby and her likes have been trying to do for so long. But they don't have the moral power to say what Hamas did, all the waves of suicide bombing attack, October.
I don't know. When did like genociding your neighbors became a basic human right? Like, by the way, Israelis don't have this human right. Only Palestinians have it. Like, they genocided like the Christians, the Jews, everything around them. Like, why do they have that? Why is it like their basic human right to do it? I don't understand.
That when we have a savage group, Islamist, by the name of Allah, hijacking and using children as human shields, their own children.
Israel is admittedly doing through AI. They're saying that they can kill up to 100 civilians for every Hamas official. It's absolutely outlandish.
What is this shit talking about? Wait, you can kill 100 civilians on every Hamas official? Is she talking about the same statistics that Muhammad Hijab brought when he said like out of every 100 kills, one is like a high-ranking official, like, and then the rest is like 60% Hamas, 50% Hamas. Yeah, she's really like, she's bringing the same talking points on Muhammad Hijab, but she says it's like in a more sophisticated way, so she can slide it under the table. Oh, this person is vile.
Take over 200 more.
Mass slaughter of women and kids. You know that.
Well,
and
actually,
you could also
Hamas
make the
did
same
commit a
argument for
mass
what
slaughter
preempted.
of women and kids. They did. You say there's no symmetry. There's an absolute symmetry.
But there's no symmetry. There's no symmetry between an occupying, colonizing force and the people.
Of course, there is no symmetry between colonizing, occupying force like the Arabs are. Oh no, that's not what she's talking about.
That they're occupying.
She's very confusing.
Colonizing. You could obviously make the same argument that preempted October 7th. That it was a declaration.
Like Jews literally cannot live anywhere in the world. They're like, people are shouting, "Go back to Poland," where their gas chambers are. Like, what's wrong? Like, and we are the colonials. We're the colonialism. Like, we are the ones that are colonialists. Literally nowhere in the world we can live. There's like zero land, absolutely nowhere that we're allowed to stay alive. I don't know why she wants the Palestinians to have the same lack of human rights that we do. Clearly, the world right now is collaborating to eliminate us. That's what they want. Like the American regime, the American state is collaborating with Iran in building nuclear weapons that would, and sending weapons to Hezbollah. To what do you think they do it for? Like, they were certain that the Jews are gonna get slaughtered and massacred in a massacre that is so great that they would be spoken about like the Tartar massacres is how it was put by the Arab leaders when they said about their plans in 47, 48, like in the independence war. They declared like that's gonna be an amazing massacre. Like we're gonna get the million Jews that, like all the million Jews that live in Arab lands are gonna get massacred, completely slaughtered in Muslim lands. And in Israel as well, like whoever is there, like all the Jews that had to escape them there because they went back home to Poland, right, to just get pogromed again and massacred again. And then the United States was like, okay, we're gonna put arms embargo on Israel because hopefully, like that would end this lunatic story, right? Like then the Jews will be gone finally. Didn't happen. The Jews somehow survived. Very disappointing. They kept hoping, for the problem to solve itself until like 67. And then, in 70, they noticed that the problem is not solving itself. So they're like, okay, how do we pretend to be not involved with the massacre of the Jews, but still have them, like still laying the ground for the massacre of the Jews? And I'm just like, okay, let's be friends with them. Because but like that's the thing, like this is the elite of the United States that wants that, right? The Bush, that family that funded the Nazis, and the Ford and the Rockefellers, like they want the Jews dead. It's not that the actual government necessarily wants us dead. So this is why the sophistication towards this preparation towards the massacre of the Jews in Israel and the Jews in the United States is so sophisticated right now, right? So they're completely dehumanizing both types of Jews, right? Both those who are trying to defend themselves here and those who try to go to school and study there. Neither have the right to exist. So, to be honest, like, is it tragic? Yes. But the way the world is going, maybe it's better not to be a part of it, Maybe it's better to not be living through the total collapse of civilization. Because this is what's gonna happen. Like everything that the Jews worked for, the moral code that they preserved thousands of years just so that people look at humanity as equal in the eyes of God, this all will go to the trash because of people like them. Not Mosab deserve a heart, right? Love, mucho love. And sometimes I think, like, you know what? Humanity, when the Jews appeared and tried to bring this moral code to the world, as it seems like it's a real thing, like the more I look at it, the history, it's like it's not research. They not talk about like the Jewish contribution to the West is silenced. Like you can see it silenced. The only ones who are even asking those questions are the Jews, like, and then those who are not Jews, like you can see there are mentions of that in different people in say that, like acknowledge it, like the forefathers and certain presidents and great leaders in history acknowledge that part, that this is probably a good chance that a lot of the values that we cherish now as Western values are probably Jewish values. And like there are a lot of leaders that say that, but there is no real research. Like those contributions, like what the Jews had contributed to the world is silenced. Is like we have the Bible, the whole Bible, like, and our history is silenced. Like we have the biggest collection of writings I mean, maybe the Chinese have a bigger collection, I don't know. But our history, what the contribution, the work that the Jews have done to preserve knowledge from antiquity, silenced, ignored. And like sometimes I just think, like, oh, okay, kill us and then have fun with yourselves and your values or lack thereof. And it's just, maybe you just don't deserve Jews. Maybe just Earth, it doesn't deserve us. Like, at the darkest moment, like when I think that you'll get your way, I just think maybe this is what you deserve too.
To siege Gaza, to prevent aid from getting in, to shoot people that stray too far out, that are fishing, that can't go get medical aid and are sentenced to death within Gaza. Is that not a declaration of war? Is it not a declaration of war to violate international law, to maintain a brutal fascist military in the West Bank? These are all October 7th. So it just keeps going back and back to what is the root of action.
I'm sorry for Mosab, Hassan, Yousef. Like, he tried so hard to get out of this awful society just to discover, like, the truth of how rotten is the moral compass of the world in general.
Listen.
I'm sorry, Mosab.
If the Israeli protocol is not
You deserved
sufficient
peace.
and it's not satisfactory to the expectations of Abby and many of her friends, then I say, how about we punish Hamas by their own law, by the Islamic law?
Exactly. That's what you're gonna have. Have fun with that.
Protocol. In this case, the Islamic law says, behead all men and take all women and children as booty. This is their moral stand. So she say it's asymmetric. Well, we already know that. It's a very dirty war. We are dealing with people with the mentality of the 7th century tribalism. It's not an easy mission for a democracy, for any country, for any modern army, for any civilized society to deal with this. So we need to be reasonable. I understand if people are anti-war and they are pro-children, pro-life, but sometimes we have to make very difficult choices, and Israel was really pushed to the corner. Israel is fighting for its very existence. I am fighting for my very existence. I did not kill any Arab. I did not kill any of their tribesmen, but they want.
Welcome to the club, Mosab.
Why? Because I criticize their religion. I criticize their stupid ideas that are leading towards global chaos. And instead of spreading the narrative, the victim narrative, what we need to do actually, we need to localize it, not globalize it.
Her name is Ashley? I thought her name is Abby.
Expectations from a democracy in the middle of crisis.
Okay. Mosab, Hassan, Yousef, happy martyrs.
She's another nobody,
I learned,
if you
as
ask
I always
me.
do from these debates.
Well, like, comment, subscribe. Probably not gonna get monetized again. I have a buy me coffee in the comments. Please support me. It really helps. Even though I don't know, I'm gonna get butchered in a little bit anyway by the United States probably. So it was nice meeting you all. Support me for now. I still have to survive until this point comes. So it feeds me and coffees me and everything, just so I can create content for you, and hopefully, at least in YouTube form, you can one day go back and appreciate things that you didn't appreciate before. Well, thank you so much. See you. Sorry for being so morbid.